Everyone hear me? Okay, good. I promise to you next year I will do in Italian, sure. I know, sure, my Spanish. Solo spagnolo è più semplice, più facile for me. May I do in English, but much better for me anyway. And you guys will do very English too. So what I said yesterday is we're going to give you a show and a demo about parallel Mac management running on Configuration Center. That's a very interesting tool. As I told you yesterday, if you got one Mac, I'm not saying to you that you got trouble or you got a problem, but don't forget that this is another machine that could create a problem for you, and you should care about that. But also that machine also need to run with Windows probably, because Windows application today is very important in the market. So for these two things, Sacha will do a demo, and I also would like to Daniele, who is one of the best partners for us here in Italy, and he's got very good skill with the Configuration Center. He tested our software. He already did about learning about our software. So I would like just give a few words from him, in Italian, of course. Will be more easy. Go ahead.
Benvenuti tutti. Rapidamente, quello che ci faranno vedere, lo dico in italiano così abbattiamo qualche eventuale barriera, è una demo dell'integrazione di Parallels con Configuration Manager. Ovviamente questo tipo di integrazione è rivolta a tutti quegli shop che abbiano sistemi Windows e sistemi Mac. Immagino che la maggior parte di voi sia in questa situazione. Noi abbiamo valutato diverse soluzioni che ci sono sul mercato. Mi sento di dire che davvero Parallels è quella meglio integrata in Configuration Manager. Lo vedrete, non ha bisogno di delle sovrastrutture, è davvero la meglio integrata e si basa sull'esperienza che hanno dal punto di vista della virtualizzazione sulla piattaforma Mac, che quindi conoscono estremamente bene. A questo proposito, se finita la sessione andata al boot di Parallels, vi daranno una chiave gratuita per il Parallels Desktop, quindi per quanto riguarda il sistema di virtualizzazione di Parallels, e se lascerete informazioni potete anche avere in download altro software in valutazione. Quindi vi invito alla fine della sessione, sono sicuro che la troverete interessantissima, andare al boot di Parallels per avere questa chiave e per avere ulteriori informazioni. A questo punto lascio la parola a Sasha che vi farà tutta la parte di introduzione e di integrazione di Parallels con Configuration Manager. E vi ringrazio.
Okay, perfect. So I hope everyone can understand me well, and then if there are any questions, I would say we put them to the end, and then we have some minutes to go through your questions without any problem. So I'm 10 years with Parallels, and since the early days, Parallels is kind of building the bridge between the Windows world and the Mac world. So we have the Parallels desktop product, which many of you might know, which allows you to run Windows applications on the Mac. And since the early days, we had businesses using that application to get the Macs integrated in their business environments, because a lot of applications are not compatible with the macOS operating system, so you need to run them on the Mac inside a Windows world. And with Parallels Desktop, we did a lot to kind of bridging the gap here to make it nice and easy to run and work with Windows applications on the Mac. A couple of years ago, we took all the knowledge we have from that and put it together with our knowledge from our another business unit, which is focusing a lot on the data center and data center automation. So we work together with Microsoft, for example, on Office 365. So, for example, Dell is globally using our data center automation solution to deploy Office 365. And the same thing is done by Vodafone, for example. And we use the knowledge of both departments and build the tool, the Parallels Mac Management tool, which is a plugin into Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager that allows you really complete Mac management in an easy way. And that's what I want to show you today. when we worked with Parallels Desktop, we figured out that really a lot of organizations are using Macs. And so that's the 71% is kind of based on our analysis and what we did with our customers. On the other hand, one of the problems is that those Macs are somewhere in the infrastructure. So it's usually, it starts that someone just buys a Mac and just use it to run the company's application, maybe in Parallels or another tool or whatever. And then, but it's not controlled by IT at all. So it's, there's this shadow IT topic in general going on, and we want to help you to ensure that you get all the stuff in the hands of the IT, so that at least you're aware of what's happening in the infrastructure, and even better, that you can control it. So we have created a set of tools for the businesses, and these includes actually, of course, Parallels Desktop in a special business edition, and the Parallels Mac Management for SCCM. And both solutions are independent but integrated. So this means with the Parallels Mac Management, for example, we work together with Parallels Desktop, but you don't need Parallels Desktop on a Mac to manage it with SCCM. So that's not needed. And if you're using something else, another virtualization solution on the Mac, or like Citrix, for example, or so, it's up to you to do that. Of course, I would prefer if you use Parallels, but you can manage this with SCCM in our plugin as well. So it's completely independent from that. The slides are not a very good thing, but you can read it, and that's the most important thing. So how it's the management done today? Usually the PCs are managed by SCCM or something else, and usually the Macs are not integrated at the moment. Especially when you look at the smaller environments, like you say, okay, I have just 10, 20, 30, 50 Macs, and but I have 1,000 PCs, so it's very the percentage is very low, and then you say, oh, it makes no sense to build up an own infrastructure for that, to manage the Macs. Because usually you're investing in hardware and operating system licenses, the management solution and so on, just for them to manage the Macs. On the other hand, in bigger environments, there might be the case that you have a lot of Macs. So we see companies who have really like 500, 600, 1,000 Macs, and the Macs are managed. There are good tools out in the market to manage the Macs. And then on the other side, they have the PC management with, for example, SCCM, so configuration manager, and they're completely independent from each other. So usually both parts even don't know from each other, and there's no real integration from both sides. So you have the Mac guys over there, and even the IT admin over there, and then the PC admins over there. So it's not united. They completely work independent from each other, which is not very helpful as well. And we now want to kind of bridge that and fill the gap with our solution by allowing you to use the existing SCCM infrastructure what you have in place, to use that for the Mac management as well. So we even got an award last year on the Microsoft the TechEd, when it was TechEd still, and actually we are working very close together with Microsoft. The solution, of course, it's supported by Microsoft as well, and we even get sometimes customer forwarded by Microsoft. So it's very nice partnership with them, and we really add a lot on what you can do with SCCM for the Macs. So these are kind of the highlights. One general problem which we are facing in IT is that a lot of people don't know how many Macs they have in the infrastructure. So you say, yeah, there should be around 50 or 60 or 100, but I don't know exactly. And because we even have in big companies that the departments usually buy them on their own, and don't even let the IT department know about this and stuff like this. So what we can do with our Mac management plugin is that we find and identify the Mac client's infrastructure. And we can even go one step ahead. It's because we can even automatically then enroll those Macs into SCCM. So, and without the need to go to each and every Mac and install the stuff manually, you can completely automate that. Of course, very important is all the inventory stuff, first of all, so that you know what's happening, what's in your infrastructure. You get all the inventory data. You're able to enforce the compliance settings, like you want to set up some basic stuff at the beginning, like passcode policies or exchange settings, Wi-Fi settings. That's all part of the compliance settings. Software deployment is, of course, a huge topic. So we allow you to work with software packages and applications in SCCM. You are able to kind of push an application catalog to the Mac clients as well. And of course, we completely integrate into the reporting functionality, which you have already available in SCCM. Now, having a more closer look on the setup. I hope you can read it, but I think it should be okay. So what you see in blue is what you might have in place when you have an SCCM environment. So you have the central SMS provider, you might have some management points, and you already have some distribution points. Usually, when you would add Mac management, you would need to now to get another solution for a third party. And what's happening is that you usually exactly create the same infrastructure, the same servers, just for the Macs. That's not what we want, actually. We just add some small pieces of software, which is in red, like on the central SMS server, we install our proxy. And that's already made the central piece. And we don't need to touch the management points and distribution points, but we leverage them. So all the deployments we do and so on are done by the normal MPs and DPs. So there's no change. For administering the Macs, we use the admin console because you know it, and we just add some Mac functionality with extensions which we load into the admin console. On the client side, we install our own agent, so that which communicates then with the management points, distribution points, and the proxy. And it's very important to understand that that's our own implementation. So it has nothing to do with the Microsoft support of Macs inside SCCM. And this means that none of the requirements you have with the Microsoft support for Mac clients, you have with us. So there's, for example, no need to set up a PKI. So you don't need to do that. So you don't need to roll out any certificates to the clients before you enroll them into SCCM, or they don't need to be in the Active Directory. So that's all not needed. So it's a very easy setup. And of course you can use PKI, we support that, that's not a problem, but you don't have to, because we have many customers who choose our solution because they don't go through all the hassles of setting up the PKI just to manage the 20 Macs in their infrastructure. And so we make this actually very easy. Now have a closer look at the configuration. What we can do with the scheduled discovery procedure is that we can identify the Macs in your network. That's the first step, what's happening. So you just easily configure your subnets or boundaries. And then in the next step, when we have identified the Mac in the network, we try to establish an SSH connection to the Mac and install in the agent and enroll it into SCCM. And that's completely automated. Of course, you need to have kind of an SSH login available to the Mac clients, because otherwise there's no way actually to access the Mac clients remotely. Of course, you can do everything manually as well. Manually means that you just create, at the end of the day, the only thing what you need to do is you now need to run a script on the client. And that's one line of code, or you create a wrapper package which even the user can just double click, and that's it. And that's automatically then enrolls and connects the client into SCCM. So there's not much to do on the client side. Another option, of course, to enroll Macs and deploy them in the network is by using operating system images. You all know that from the PC side. It's called PXE or WDS. And we enable the PXE and WDS environment to support the Apple format, the netboot as well. So we installed a small service on the distribution point offering the PXE service. And once installed, you can leverage that distribution point to offer netboot images to the Macs as well. So, and with an update what we are currently working on, you will be able to create task sequences, including software deployment, automatically adding the Mac into the AD, stuff like this, completely automated. This makes it very nice and very easy to do software deployment and a complete enrollment of the Mac in the infrastructure. On the client side, it's nice, but on the client side, there's not so much you see actually. Not because the screen is not good, because it's just because there's really only limited information the user can do on the client side. It's just more or less that there's an update, the connect button, which allows you to do an update on the policies, and that's it. And the user does not see more at all. First thing what we are doing when we enroll the Mac into SCCM, we are pulling the inventory data. So we are writing all the inventory information from the client into the standard SCCM database. This means that the objects inside SCCM are completely the same like the PC objects. So there's no difference. And this allows you, even if you have a kind of third-party system connecting to the SCCM SQL server, to retrieve the Mac objects as well. So this is completely nice integrated. Very important as well is that we don't alter the SCCM database, so we don't do any changes there. We don't do any schema updates. That's not required at all. What we do actually is for the point we're covering later is we are adding an additional database to the standard SCCM SQL server, but you can still use the SCCM SQL server license. So you don't need any additional license for that. You can just use what you have and what you get with the SCCM SQL server license. When you now look in the inventory, if you want to look at the inventory information, we don't add custom reports for the Macs. You just use the reporting you have already in place. So if you look for Mac clients with a specific operating system, you just choose that report from the standard reports. And you will get another option to look for macOS instead for Windows. But that's it. The only thing where we add a custom report is because we're doing one thing additionally, which is not standard, is we are pulling the Apple Care information, that's the Apple warranty information of a device, into the SCCM database as well. And for this, we have an own report to show you the warranty information of all the Mac clients in your infrastructure. So that's the only custom report actually we're adding. And of course, with the inventory data available, you are able to create your own device collections as well, for example. So you can use all the data you have like you know it. But I suggest that we have a quick look on a live system. And then I'll show you that in the live running system a bit, because even the screenshots are not so good. And actually that looks a bit better. So just let me look in here. So as mentioned, So I'm using the standard SCCM console. So that's a virtual machine running here on my system. I hope you can read it. We'll see. So in the standard list of devices, you will get your Mac clients. So there's no difference to the PC. So it's the same interface and so on. And now, just when we, for example, now have a look at the Resource Explorer on a Mac device, instead of seeing the PC stuff, you will see then, for example, under computer system, okay, that's a MacBook Pro instead of a Dell, whatever. Or the operating system, it's an older one, it's like a 10.7. So that's the only difference you see compared to a PC, and it's completely integrated. On the device collections, for example, I created some device collections here, not only for all the macOS 10 clients in my infrastructure, that's created by our software by default, but you can do stuff like, okay, I want to group all the macOS 10 servers, the mobile Macs, the desktop Macs, something like this, as an example, or different departments or whatever. And for example, with the servers, you can do something like just looking for a special application installed, because with the macOS server, it's not a server version of the operating system. macOS server is basically just the server.app installed, and then you can really monitor for that app installed, and these clients are then grouped in the server device collection. And of course, it's completely up to you. So you can, for example, we support the disk encryption on the Mac clients as well. And then you can even put the devices which are currently encrypting the disk into a collection as well. And then you can assign baselines to others, so it's that you can do a really smart grouping and really kind of even do kind of staging process over the different groups. Okay, going back here. So now after we have the clients configured and we have them inside SCCM, we want to manage them. So the Mac client is managed, unfortunately, not by group policies. So we need to set that up for the Mac clients again. The Mac understands so-named configuration profiles. So this is basically an XML file which is pushed to the client, and then the client automatically is configuring it itself. And we support that. And the nice thing is that instead of because in the Microsoft implementation, for example, which is much more complicated, you need to know all the XML values and stuff, and you need to write them manually down, and it's very hard to set it up because you can do typos, not the wrong values, and so on. On the Mac server, there's a tool which is called Configuration Profile Editor, which is a GUI-based tool which allows you to create configuration profiles on a Mac. We ported that tool right into the SCCM console to make it very easy for you to create configuration profiles and deploy them. As this is really nice and easy way for the Mac management. You even have the possibility to import existing configuration profiles. So if you have done that already, maybe with another client management system or just with the Apple native tool, you can easily import it here and just reuse it. For us, it's important that all the components of our solution, which I showed before, are running on a Mac. Are not running on a Mac. They're running all on Windows. So it's for the Paris Mac management solution, you don't need any Mac in the back end, in the infrastructure. It's all based on the Windows platform. So another important configuration option is to do a file fault manager, which is the same like BitLocker. And we support that as well. And with on the Mac side, you can use so-named institutional keys and personal keys to do the disk encryption. And we support both. And actually what we are doing, we are storing the the recovery keys of each of the clients then back in the central SCCM SQL Server in our own database. And then you can recover the keys from the management console. Let's have a look at this. So this is all part of the compliance settings. And you do the configuration completely the same like you do for the PCs. It means you create a set of configuration items. You group them in a baseline. And then you deploy that baseline to your collection. So that's completely the same for the Macs as for the PCs. And in the configuration items, you can then choose our configuration profile editor to do the management. So this means, for example, you can very easily create a passcode policy just by clicking the values what you need. So nothing to look up or whatever. It's very easy to do. The same, for example, with Exchange. So if you want to do the Exchange settings, you just configure it here. There can be things optional, which requires the user actually to put in something like the username or whatever. You can do network settings, you can roll out certificates, and so on. On top of that, you can use the SCCM integrated functionality with the discovery and remediation scripts as well. So you can create a discovery script, which, for example, detects if the firewall on the Mac client is activated and configured properly, and then if it's not, you can run the remediation script. You can create a remediation script, which then sets the right settings for the firewall. And we then support, of course, all the native languages which are supported by the Mac client. So that can be AppleScript, that can be Python, Perl, whatever you prefer. Additionally, we support, of course, configuring Parallels desktop. So this means if you are running Parallels desktop on the Mac clients, you can create own SCCM configuration items to do the configuration of Parallels desktop. This means, for example, you can do all the security settings inside Parallels desktop. You can even deploy the license. You can set the update servers, and so on. So it's very easy to set up and really nicely integrated. Another important topic is, of course, software deployment. And SCCM actually, as you know, supports the SON applications, the newer standard, and the more older packages. And we support both. Actually, the packages are very good if you want to deploy a single file, you want to deploy an application as well. You can do really everything with it. The benefit of the packages at the moment is that you just create a folder, put in the files you want to deploy, and that's it. So there's nothing else needed in the sense of that you need to convert it, because you might know that when you work with SCCM and you work with applications, you will need to convert the applications with the SONAM CM util on the Mac before you can upload them into SCCM. And the reason for that is basically that the software packages on a Mac, for example, the .pkg format is nothing more than a folder. And the problem is when you deploy that over the file shares and so on, which are part of SCCM and the infrastructure, a lot of information will be lost on that package, and the package can be broken. And so what Microsoft is doing is nothing more than zipping, compressing the package, and add some metadata to it, and that's it. And then you deploy it over the infrastructure, and it keeps the same what it is. With the packages, the same is required, but we do that in the backend. So it's nothing you have to take care of. So we are doing this, and this makes it a bit easier. But as we integrate into the applications as well, and mainly for making the applications available in the application catalog, which we push through the Mac, You need to still convert the applications, but it's an easy step. You just it's a one-liner on the command line, or there's some tools out there where you can do it graphically. That's pretty easy, and then you can make the applications visible on the Mac client in the application catalog. And that looks a lot like what you know from the PC side. So the user will get a list of the applications he's allowed to install. He can install, update, and remove the applications via the portal. You can feature applications and stuff like this, so that's very, very nice. And from the management point of view, you will find the settings for the application catalog at the same place inside the SCCM console again. So let's have a look at this. So when you work with applications, that's of course all done in the software library. And inside the applications, you create and upload the packages. You create the application packages, and so in the packages format or in the applications format. So for example, what I usually do with my clients when I have packages which are anyhow needed on every Mac, because it's the standard, it's some special configuration files, some basic applications which are required on everything, like maybe a VPN client or certificates or whatever. It's very easy to do that in a software package and roll it out. If you want to make stuff available optionally, we use the applications format. And the applications are uploaded, the package is created with the same wizard as you know from the Windows files. You instead using the Windows installer, you choose then Mac OS X, and that's it, and then the rest is completely the same. What you then do after you have uploaded the packages that you, inside the properties, you can, for example, then go into the application catalog settings, which are usually used for the PC catalog, but we pull the information from here for the Mac applications as well. So if you want to add localized description for your application, for example, you're in a more European-wide company, maybe the standard language is English, and you want to add an Italian translation, you can do that without any problem. And the nice thing is that on the client side, it will automatically then pull the localization which is configured on the Mac. So if the language on the Mac is Italian, then it will push the Italian translation. And all the other configuration steps, for example, are part of the standard stuff as well. So it's the integration is very deep here, and for the administrator, a lot of things are not really visible because it's done in the back end, but you don't have to do anything. With the software packages, there's one special thing, because you can, of course, use the software packages not only to deploy a software, but you can use that to just deploy a kind of single script, even a one-line or whatever, very easy. So if you want to set up something via a script, you create the package, put the script into it, and then just execute it, and that's it. So you don't not always need to add real files or whatever into the package. Even just in the software package, you can then just give the line for the command line command directly what you want to do, and then you don't need to add anything at all. When we work with Parallels Desktop Enterprise, we allow you, actually you can't see anything there. So we allow you to manage the licenses via the web portal as well. So, because one problem is when you're working with Parallels Desktop, a lot of companies still use single keys for all the deployments. So this means you have, let's say, 20 installations of Parallels Desktop, and you have then 20 single license keys. That's not nice. And with the enterprise, the business version, which is designed for larger enterprises or smaller ones, is that you will get one single license key from us, and then via a web portal, you have the option to control that. So you install the software with that central license, and then you will see all the clients which have Parallels Desktop deployed via that web portal. And you can even then remove the licenses from the clients. You can see how many licenses are currently used. So that means, for example, if you, okay, no, we bought 50 licenses, 40 of them are used, so I can add additional 10, or you can even add more. Yes? Can you repeat it? Yes. Yes. So it's what we do so with the business version of Parallels Desktop, you are able to control Parallels Desktop much more than with the consumer version, and specifically designed for the BYOD environments. Because what you can do is really that you, with the installation of Parallels Desktop, you can provide some information, for example, that the normal user is not allowed to change anything with the virtual environment or Parallels Desktop. And we can do that on a kind of user level and say, okay, only the admin can do that. But especially in BYOD, you often have the case that the user is the admin. So he often has his local admin rights. So what we can do as well is that we can override that and have an own password just for doing the admin settings in that Parallels Desktop. So that even if you're a local admin, you won't be able to change the Parallels Desktop settings without that password. And you, of course, get an overview inside the licensing portal then on who's using the software, because you always see the people who were signed in. And you get information on IP address, MAC address, and so on. So you have a nice overview on which device the software is installed. So and then you can blacklist devices. For example, if you don't want that he's using Parallels Desktop any longer, you can then add it to the blacklist, and then the license is automatically removed. Stuff like this. As mentioned earlier, we have their own configuration settings inside Parallels Desktop to do the configuration. Maybe when I show it to you here, maybe it's a bit easier to see. So as mentioned, so you can do the security settings, you can deploy the license, you can even control, for example, when a USB device is connected to a Mac, do you want to have to always connect it only to the host or only to the VM, stuff like this, which is for security very interesting. You can take control about the updates and so on. And this makes it very easy to do deployment, because you can change the settings. You can, with Parallels, with the Business Edition, you can do that with the deployment, but you can change that afterwards as well. Of course, another important thing is when you work with your employees, so using then a Mac which is enrolled into SCCM, they might need some support. And so natively, of course, the Mac does not support Microsoft Remote Desktop. So what we are doing, actually, we are integrating the RNC viewer into the SCCM console and SSH. So this means that even when you run your management tool, not from a Mac, but on your PC, on your Dell or whatever, you will be able to remote assist the guys. So you can just, when you go into the devices list, and then you do right-click on the device, you can go to the Parallels management tools, and then you can directly connect via VNC or SSH to a Mac to do the remote management. So it's just, so that you don't have to switch to another device or whatever to just to connect to the Mac remotely, and this makes it very handy. later this year, we're going to integrate more functionality here so that you, for example, even can send Unix commands directly to the client and other stuff. And basically, that was a rough overview on the solution. As one of our, well, as we've approached often with that, and people ask, okay, what's now the difference again between the native SCCM implementation and the Mac clients and the Parallels Mac management solution is, for us, basically, the native implementation in SCCM has two major issues. The configuration is not so easy. It's a lot of stuff you need to take care of, especially with PKI. And on the other hand, it's not complete. So there are some basic stuff which is missing. And it's not so much the discovery from my and that we add the Apple Care information. That's nice, but more important for me is, for example, that you can't control the filefold encryption, so the BitLocker on the Mac. So that's very important, something you need to do. And with our solution, you can do that very easily and completely integrated into SCCM. On the other hand, the native Mac support in SCCM does not support configuration profiles. They're using the older plist standard. And so we deploy configuration profiles, and that's kind of what Apple recommends on how to manage the Mac clients. Of course, another very important thing is in general that the native implementation does not support any application catalog on the Mac. So if you want to use and want to have a kind of in-house app store for the users to allow them to install Office for Mac, Parallels Desktop, or whatever, it's very easy to do with Parallels Mac management via the kind of in-house app store. And as another thing, as a lot of customers are using the PXE for the PCs, which they're used to, they want to adapt that for the Mac clients as well. That's not possible natively as well. So, and this is why we are spending a lot of time really implementing now the new the NetBoot support, so that you really have a nice and easy option to use the PXE and WDS environment for the Macs as well, because that's actually, we have some customers who are still using, there are some freeware tools on the market, like one is called, for example, Deploy Studio. And you can use that to do imaging for the Mac. But it's completely independent from SCCM, and it needs a Mac and so on. And we will now have kind of this functionality which you're using with that tool completely integrated into SCCM. So that makes it very nice to work with the Mac clients. Perfect. So just to kind of wrap it up a bit, we have a nice and easy plug-and-play integration into SCCM. So when you run the installer, there's some pre-requirements where we have to check, because you have to actually create 1 or 2 containers in the AD, and the rest is just checking the permissions, and that's it. We are leveraging really complete SCCM infrastructure, including the management points, distribution points, and so on. There's nothing new to set up on this. So it's there's nothing to configure, even from within the SCCM console. It just works after the installation. There's nothing else we need to take care of. And of course, we support the latest SCCM versions. And so that's very important. There's no real dependency between the updates and so on. So we had customers really who are still on an early version, but they updated of Parallels Mac management, but they updated SCCM to the latest CU update, and vice versa. So there's no dependence between those. And we support always the same host operating systems like SCCM supports. So as we run all the host operating system support versions like 2008, 12, and so on, that's no problem at all. And as we integrate so deep into SCCM as you saw in the SCCM console. It's basically, you know all this. It's just that you now use that for the Mac clients as well. The learning curve is great because actually, of course, there's some Mac-specific stuff which you need to learn, which you need to understand, especially when you want to do scripting and so on. But when you start with it, and just we have a lot of customers which they just start by getting an overview on what we really have in the infrastructure. They want to know, okay, how many Macs do I really have in the first row? And then they do the next steps from this. But it will provide you a nice overview on the inventory, and that works completely without any Mac knowledge. So that's easily done. But it brings you already one step forward. Okay. So any questions? We have actually one small gift for you. So for all of the people in the session, we offer you a copy of Parallels Desktop, the current version for free. The only thing what Andrea needs is your email address so that we can rewrite that down. And because it's not registered here, you write that down, and then you will get a free copy of the Parallels Desktop software. When you want to test Parallels Mac Management, that's no problem at all. Just send us an email, and then we will talk about the next steps. So we can provide you the bits, for example, but we have other options as well. So for example, we have virtual labs available so that you even can connect remotely to an SCCM system and then play around with the solution without setting anything up in your infrastructure, as an example. So that makes it very easy to have some first hands-on experience on your own without need to go through the installation steps. And that's really what we can offer. And now we are open for questions if there are any. And then, yes.
Scusate.
Io sono un facilitatore, non rispondo io. The most interesting part for me is the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you get an inventory, you do that also to maintain a compliance of the software and install it on the end user package.
Mm-hmm.
And after I get the inventory, is it possible in such a way, if I found eventually some application that I don't want on the
Mm-hmm.
computer, lock those applications or remove those applications? Do you have a plan about
That
feature like that?
So at the moment, it's not built into the software. There are ways to do it via scripting, of course. But we have that on the roadmap. So it's not for this year, but it's on the roadmap. And because it's especially in these kind of environments, that's which we got requested already from several customers.
And the another one is it's always always about the compliance that sometimes you must have a certain level of patch management or patch applied to the system, and so we must do patch management.
Yes.
And probably you could just describe some points that we can.
Yes. So the problem we have at the moment with Apple patches is that it's no problem that you can deploy them through us. So you can create a software package and then roll it out. That's not a problem. Today we don't integrate into the software update mechanism in general inside on the Mac because it's so we want to have everything working on the Windows stack, and right now there's no implementation of a kind of an open software update server for the Mac clients. Exactly, and so this will come. So this will be actually in the first quarter of next year. We're going to support that. So then you will be able to configure the updates and stuff from within SCCM, but it's just not ready yet. But it will come, and we're working together with another software vendor on this. And you will then be able to do the software update patching and taking care of the patch levels as well. So, but that's the version 5.0, which is then coming in first quarter next year. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I have a customer that has a Mac in his device, but the SCCM server is not having a good time. It's not, so my question is, do you think it's a better option to set up a dedicated SCCM server for the backend part of the application, or do you think that there are no problem even if we update, or I don't know?
So the problem is that the general setup of SCCM is you always need that, like setting up the boundaries and stuff and so on. So there are a lot of work you might do 2 times, and of course, then the question is then if you really need the both systems. I mean, even if you're not working a lot with SCCM for the PCs, that's not a problem, but it's there, because there are a lot of, for example, with the NetBoot functionality and so on, which we're offering, which integrates into the SCCM infrastructure a lot, as we then look up stuff like on the DHCP server if it's connected and stuff like this, and which we just leverage. And there's a lot of things you need to take care of when you really separate it from each other.
But in your experience, do you find that these SCCM guys are happy with the installation of this component, or they don't like it at all?
No, it's the first questions I always get asked is, do you change anything in the AD, or do you alter any databases? And when I remove it, can I remove it completely? But we support all of that. That's not a problem. But then they never uninstall it usually. So that it's fine because of the integration into SCCM. It's not disturbing, like that we're changing anything in the console or whatever, that they don't find themselves back when they work with the PCs. It's just of the deep integration, it's okay for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if there are any further questions, I think we are through. I mean, if you want to get the NFR copy, just let us know. And then because we don't have them with us, the codes, but you will get then an email from us with the download link and the NFR code during the next week, and then you're ready to go.
Okay.
So thank you very much. And if there are further questions, we are at the booth as well, so just pass by, and then we can clarify other stuff.